talks? Why does the moon and sun talk? Does anybody talk in this one?
I believe that every child can learn, that reading and writing should be as natural to them as speaking, and that they can acquire it as naturally as they acquire their speech.
I think listening to children is probably one of the most important things that a teacher can do. When you listen to children, when you really listen to children, you find out about them.
Getting kids to discuss is maybe one of the hardest things I think teachers cope with, and it's a bigger issue than just getting kids to talk to each other. I think you build a community where there's real caring and respect for each other.
On stage with Dorothy and me for the first half of this teleconference are Debbie Manning, a third grade teacher from Fresno, California. Debbie's classroom is simply wonderful, and it's just filled with literature. Our other guest is Jean Fennessy from Fresno Pacific College, who spends at least 2 days a week in Debbie's classroom and has done so over a period of at least several years. We look forward to having her share her insights. We also asked Jean to show the field footage we're going to be using in this teleconference to teachers in her area so that she could become a spokesperson for their concerns. So welcome, you two.
Thank you.
Our topic today is an exciting one. Literature has finally found its rightful place in the elementary school curriculum. Through literature, teachers give students opportunities to be, quote, partners in the exploration of the imaginable. This conference is designed to support teachers in making literature an integral part of their elementary school curriculum. And we have other guests today. In addition, during this teleconference, you'll be meeting Karen Smith and Ralph Peterson. Other guests in the audience include Kathy Short, who's dropped in from Arizona, the University of Arizona. She's a professor of language, literacy, and culture there, and she's done extensive work with teachers in supporting them in the use of literature. It's great to have her. We really want this teleconference to be interactive, and to that end, we will talk, of course, play segments of classroom field footage, allow you on site to talk with each other, and then we'll field your questions. There's many ways to interact with us. Our phone number is 1-800-553-7893. That's 1-800-553-7893. Our fax number is 1-812-855-0729. 812-855-0729, and if you're on electronic mail, you can send us a message by umbrella at UCS, University Computing Service, Indiana, EDU. So let's hear from you. And now to begin. Jean, will you start us off telling us a bit about Debbie's classroom, if you would?
I certainly think that we have to say that Debbie's classroom is filled with literature. It's also filled with the talk about literature, and literature and talk form the cornerstone for her classroom. She reads often to her students and opens up that literature that she reads for them to make comments and ask questions, make connections with. When I've known her over the past 10 years or so being in her classroom, whether she's taught kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade, in all of those years I've seen her read extensively to the children, many times a day. And after she reads, she stops and waits and they talk. And that's what's exciting, because she allows them to talk about books. And it's that talk about literature, that talk about their lives and how their lives connect with books, that fills that classroom throughout the day and throughout the year. I think we're going to be seeing a clip of her classroom in a moment that shows her reading to the students. She reads a wide variety of books, and I think in this clip she's reading Kettle of Hawks and then a book about ants.
Hawks fly alone much of the time, but in autumn and spring some travel great distances together. These seasonal movements are called migrations. To save energy, hawks will soar along using the currents and columns of hot air called thermals. The hot air in a thermal pushes the hawk high in the sky, giving them the altitude they need to peel away and glide for miles. When many hawks circle upward in the same thermal, they are said to be kettling, because it looks as though the birds are boiling in a great kettle of air. When I read to children and I choose the books, I look at that from many different angles. I like to cross genre. I like to provide children with good literature. There's lots of literature that's out there, and I feel that it's important to provide children with the very best quality of literature. And sometimes I do choose books that hopefully will nudge. I'll invite children to possibly explore certain areas as an invitation, which can, of course, be refused. Nobody has to take me up on those invitations, and yet other times I'll choose books because they're simply good books to read. And oftentimes, more often than not, the books that are just great books will be the ones that will trigger the conversations that lead to some of the best inquiry that we've had. This one is by Eleanor Princess, written Mifflin, 1993. A whole hill of hungry ants, their faces all aglow, came swarming from the forest to cross the field below. A soft breeze fanned the sunshine and whisked them on their way. It hinted of yummies for their empty tummies. That means a picnic. Hooray! Everything we do in here is reading and writing. Everything we do in this classroom crosses all sign systems. When a book is read, they're looking at the book through eyes of an artist, through the eyes of a mathematician, through the eyes of a scientist. They're not seeing the book as just a piece of writing. They're seeing the book as potential inquiry, as potential possibilities. 99 ants were swarming from each and every row in hot pursuit of one little ant who quickly turned to go. It's not all my fault, you know.
That's a really good
Anthony?
You are going way too slow.
David?
That I have two things to say. One, can I read the book? And the other, well, that's kind of like the poem book that you read about the ants.
It's a little bit like a poem book, isn't it? Nikki?
I hope.
Repeated itself, didn't it? Clary?
I think the ants may be related to the bees from how they mate with the queen, and then like a new ant queen ant gets born. And I'm wondering, see, and it's sort of like our poem, honeybees in the poem book, because I just thought, and it told us that even though honeybees is for two voices, it's like in the poem book it said like slaving away, sort of, and that's what it meant. So we found out information that was true, even though it was even in the poem.
That's right. So you can find information from a lot of different sources.
From a poem.
Oh, that's
right. So a poem could be an informative piece of...
Or it could be from a poem.
That's right. And you're comparing bees to ants, suggesting that there's similarities. That might be an interesting...
Yeah, lots of similarities.
Lots of similarities. Very nice. Elliot?
Some of the ants, they have wings. They have, but you don't see a lot of ants with wings flying around much, but you may hit something and think it's a bee when it's an ant.
A flying ant. Interesting. Be interesting to do a little research on that.
maybe
too,
those are
wouldn't
the
it?
soldiers.
And what,
Could be.
and on, I think it said the soldier, not the workers, was a female, and the queen was a female. They both were, and Chloe and Chelsea are both female. They're both female, and there's a worker and a queen.
I think listening to children is probably one of the most important things that a teacher can do. They need to know that they're the expert, they're the ones that can answer their own questions, as well as investigate new questions.
What I'm gonna say is I bought this ant farm thing where they would send you these ants, and the strange thing was that they weren't supposed to send you a queen, but when I got it, after like a couple weeks, there was a queen. I noticed a queen, and their wings are different than you would think.
Interesting. Well, maybe we could start an ant farm. Maybe you'd like to raise some ants and watch them and study them.
But the ant queen died. How did it die?
I got the impression that some of the ants die naturally after reading this book, and then, as Cleary was suggesting, the poem from Joyful Noises suggests that children display knowledge all the time. I think the moment they walk in the door to the moment they leave, they're constantly displaying the knowledge they have. When they come to the rug and share literature and ask all of those wonderful questions, when children can come together and talk to each other without raising their hands and have a dialogue going on, listening to each other, that's sharing their knowledge that they have. And by listening to each other, they're able to add on to what someone else says. They're able to disagree in ways that don't offend and add their own perspective. Everyone doesn't have to agree. They're able to display their knowledge in so many other ways than via a test or an examination, by someone finding something for someone else, someone helping someone with an art project, by working on different projects together. They're sharing their knowledge.
Yeah, this is like a bird cage, so it detects birds. Here's like for hamsters, gerbil, any kind of rodent. And here's for the fish. Right here I'm going to put like goldfish and stuff that you'd find in a house. And in this larger tank, maybe like tropical fish and stuff.
I think we should make like a bigger thing, so we can fit snakes and all that kind of stuff.
Snakes aren't eaten by cats.
Well,
I'm making a sanctuary for everything that gets eaten by cats.
that's why you put the bird down there.
Yeah. So the cat can't get it, and birds eat hamsters, gerbils, rats, and cats also eat fish. So
Well, I should know about hamsters because I have hamsters at home.
I know.
My dad hates them.
I know. I already know that.
I know that.
Yeah, word gets around.
Huh?
Word gets around.
Debbie, word has gotten around that you and your second grade students have created quite a community of scholars there. I know we've got a lot of questions to ask about you and your 37 students that you have in your classroom, but let's start by you giving us a broader picture of what's happening with you and the children. How would an experience such as the one that we've just seen fit into a day, a week, a year? How does it fit into your curriculum?
Well, Dorothy, the clip we've just seen is only a small portion, a small fragment of what happens throughout the day in my classroom. I think Jean mentioned earlier that literature is a fundamental cornerstone in my classroom. And we gather many times during the day to talk about books, to talk about good literature, and to have a dialogue, a conversation. I read from a wide variety of books. I read poetry, folk and fairy tales, science books, social studies, nonfiction, fiction. The clip that we just saw was a very small part of a much broader inquiry investigation about change.